Hi, Aqua Roomers. It's time for chapter reading. And we're reading about the Indians who are going away. And they're walking in front of the little house on the prairie. And Pa went to get Ma and Laura and Mary and said, "You have to come and watch." They're all walking away. The pony was very near now, and Laura's heart beat faster and faster. She looked at the Indian's beaded moccasins, and she looked up at the fringed legging that clung to the pony's bare side. A bright-colored blanket was wrapped around the Indian. One bare brown red arm carried a rifle lightly across the pony's shoulders. Then Laura looked up at the Indian's fierce, still, brown face. It was a proud face. No matter what happened, it would always be like that. Nothing would change it. Only the eyes were alive in that face, and they gazed steadily far away to the west. They did not move. Nothing moved or changed, except the eagle feathers standing straight up on the shaved head. The long feathers swayed and dipped, waving and spinning in the wind as the tall Indian on the black pony passed into the distance. "Duchesne himself," Pa said under his breath, and he lifted his hand in salute. But the happy pony and the motionless Indian went by. They went by as if the house and stable and Pa and Ma and Mary and Laura were not there at all. Pa and Ma and Mary and Laura slowly turned and looked at that Indian's proud, straight back. Then other ponies and other blankets and shaved heads and eagle feathers came between. One by one on the path, more and more warriors were riding behind Duchesne. Brown face after brown face went by. Ponies' manes and tails blew in the wind. Beads glittered. Fringe flapped. Eagle feathers were waving on all the naked heads. Rifles lying on the pony's shoulders bristled all along the line. Laura was excited about the ponies. There were black ponies, bay ponies, gray and brown and spotted ponies. Their little feet went trippity-trip, trip, trippity-trip, pat-patter, trippity-pat-patter, all along the Indian trail. Their nostrils widened at Jack, and their bodies shied away from him. But they came on bravely, looking with their bright eyes at Laura. "Oh, the pretty ponies! See the pretty ponies!" she cried, clapping her hands. "Look at the spotted one." She thought she would never be tired of watching the ponies coming by, but after a while she began to look at the women and the children on their backs. The women and the children came riding behind the Indian men. Little brown Indians, no bigger than Mary and Laura, were riding the pretty ponies. The ponies did not have to wear bridles or saddles, and the little Indians did not have to wear clothes. All their skin was out in the fresh air and the sunshine. Their straight black hair blew in the wind, and their black eyes sparkled with joy. They sat on their ponies, stiff and still, like grown-up Indians. Laura looked and looked at the Indian children, and they looked at her. She had a naughty wish to be a little Indian girl. Of course, she did not really mean it. She only wanted to be bare in the wind and the sunshine and riding on one of those gay little ponies. The Indian children's mothers were riding ponies too. Leather fringe dangled about their legs, and blankets were wrapped around their bodies. But the only thing on their heads was their black, smooth hair. Their faces were brown and placid. Placid means very still. Some had narrow bundles tied on their backs, and tiny babies' heads stuck out of the top of the bundles. And some babies and some small children rode in baskets, hanging at the pony's sides beside their mothers. I have to show you one. So look at that. There is an Indian mother riding by. No saddle, no bridle with the pony. And do you see the little Indian baby in the basket hanging on the side? My goodness, Laura likes that. Laura looked straight into the bright eyes of the little baby nearer her. Only its small head showed above the basket's rim. Its hair was as black as a crow, and its eyes were as black as a night when no stars shine. Those black eyes looked deep into Laura's eyes, and she looked deep down into the blackness of that little baby's eyes, and she wanted that one little baby. "Pa," she said, "get me that little Indian baby." "Hush, Laura," Pa told her sternly. The little baby was going by. Its head turned, and its eyes kept looking into Laura's eyes. "Oh, I want it," Laura begged. The baby was going farther and farther away, but it did not stop looking back at Laura. "It wants to stay with me," Laura begged. "Please, Pa, please." "Hush, Laura," Pa said. "The Indian woman wants to keep her baby." "Oh, Pa," Laura pleaded, and then she began to cry. It was shameful to cry, but she couldn't help it. The little Indian baby was gone. She knew she would never see it anymore. Ma said she'd never heard of such a thing. "Laura," she said, but Laura could not stop crying. "Why on earth do you want an Indian baby of all things?" Ma said. Its eyes were so black, Laura sobbed. She could not say what she meant. "Why, Laura," Ma said, "you don't want another baby. We have a baby, our own baby." "I want another one too," Laura sobbed loudly. "Well, I declare," Ma exclaimed. "Look at the Indians, Laura," said Pa. "Look west, and then look east, and see what you see." Laura could hardly see at first. Her eyes were full of tears, and her sobs kept jerking out of her throat, but she obeyed Pa as best she could, and in a moment she was still. As far as she could see to the west, and as far as she could see to the east, there were Indians. There was no end to that long, long line. "That's an awful lot of Indians," Pa said. More and more Indians came riding by. Baby Carrie grew tired of looking at Indians and played by herself on the floor. But Laura sat on the doorstep. Pa stood close beside her, and Ma and Mary stood in the doorway. They looked and looked and looked at the Indians riding by. It was dinner time, and no one thought of dinner. Indian ponies were still going by, carrying bundles of skins and tent poles and dangling baskets and cooking pots. There were a few more women and a few more Indian children. Then the very last pony went by. But Pa and Ma and Laura and Mary still stayed in the doorway, looking till that long line of Indians slowly pulled itself over the western edge of the world, and nothing was left but silence and emptiness. All the world seemed very quiet and lonely. Ma said she didn't feel like doing anything. She was so let down. Pa told her not to do anything but rest. "You must eat something, Charles," Ma said. "No," said Pa, "I don't feel hungry." He went to hitch up Pet and Patty, and he began again to break the tough sod with his plow. Laura could not eat anything either. She sat a long time on the doorstep, looking into the empty west where the Indians had gone. She seemed still to see wavering feathers and black eyes and to hear the sound of ponies' feet. Wow. I wonder how long it took for that long line of Indians to ride by on their horses and ponies. I wonder how long it took. Ma and Pa and Laura and Mary were there a long time. That would be something to see, wouldn't it? So the next chapter, soldiers. Oh my goodness. Remember the prairie fire? So that burned all of the heavy undergrass. And look, Pa is able to plow much more easily. Oh, I can tell. And looks to me like Ma is digging up a garden. And there is the house and the stable. Yeah. After the Indians had gone, a great peace settled on the prairie, and one morning the whole land was green. "When did the grass grow?" Ma asked in amazement. "I thought the whole country was black, and now there's nothing but green grass as far as the eye can see." The whole sky was filled with lines of wild ducks and wild geese flying north. Crows cawed above the trees along the creek. The winds whispered in the new grass, bringing sense of earth and of growing things. In the mornings, in the meadow, the larks rose singing into the sky. All day, the curlews and killdeers and sandpipers chirped and sang in the creek bottoms. Often, in the early evening, the mockingbirds were singing. One night, Pa and Mary and Laura sat still on the doorstep, watching little rabbits playing in the grass in the starlight. 3 rabbit mothers hopped about with lopping ears and watched their little rabbits playing too. In the daytime, everyone was busy. Pa hurried with his plowing, and Mary and Laura helped Ma plant the early garden seeds. With the hoe, Ma dug small holes in the matted grass roots that the plow had turned up, and Laura and Mary carefully dropped the seeds. Then Ma covered them snugly with earth. They planted onions and carrots, peas and beans and turnips, and they were all so happy because spring had come. So, lots more ahead, boys and girls. Until next time, bye.